This episode of The Memory Palace is brought to you by Article. We are big fans of Article here at The Memory Palace. This room of the palace, the ballroom where I'm sitting right now, it's palatial, trust me, is lit beautifully by a legit beautiful lamp from Article. This stuff is of extraordinarily high quality. It is truly lovely furniture that's influenced by, mid-century modern and Scandinavian styles. I have a feeling you're really going to like it. If you've never checked it out before, summer and warmer weather is right around the corner here in the Northern Hemisphere. And they really have fantastic outdoor furniture. It's totally worth checking out. Go to article.com and take a look. The stuff looks great, and it is made with all these outdoor-friendly materials like teak and acacia wood and granite and galvanized steel and rattan. And it comes to you with a flat delivery fee of $49, regardless of what you're buying and how big the order is. So go to www.article.com/memorypalace and get $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. That is www.article.com/memorypalace. Go check it out. I'm excited to tell you guys about a new sponsor that solves the underlying problem of furniture shopping, which is you look at this stuff online and you have no idea whether it's going to actually work in your room. Well, say hello to Modsy. With Modsy, you can see new furniture in a 3D model of your actual room and redecorate it until you get your room just right. You're going to send Modsy a few photos of the room, you're going to answer a short online style quiz, and that's it. Then you have this sort of 3D model of your room, and then you can take furniture that they have from all these great partners, like Crate and Barrel and West Elm, and spin them around, and you can see exactly how they're going to look in your space. And there's no more, crossing your fingers and just hoping it's going to fit, or crossing your fingers and just hoping that the colors aren't going to clash. You can swap stuff out until you find just the right thing you're looking for. So head over to modsy.com/memory and you can get yourself a 20% discount on your first room. That's modsy.com/memory. This is The Memory Palace. I'm Nate DiMeo. Neither of them slept. Helen Kelly couldn't. She was up all night, staring at the ceiling, wishing her husband weren't dead, worrying about her 19-year-old daughter, Eugenia, and about the million. Paid to lead. And I'm not going to say it out loud, but I think we both know where this sort of thing can lead. How did it start for Eugenia Kelly? How does it ever start? With a look, a smile from the end of the bar. You're looking at someone on the dance floor, and all of a sudden they look up. They see you looking. They don't look away. His name was Al Davis. He was handsome, and he could dance. He was one of those men from the articles, a professional. He danced in vaudeville shows with his partner, the beautiful Bonnie Glass. And then for a fee, at a tango tea, he'd dance with you. And so he danced with Eugenia Kelly. She was not beautiful. Or if she was, it was in a way that is hard to capture in a photograph. Or maybe doesn't translate now 100 years later. But she was sharp, and sharply dressed, and self-possessed, and seemed somehow special to Al Davis. And so he asked her if she wanted to keep dancing. It's a familiar story, maybe even personally familiar in its way. But let me assure you, this was something new in America. The idea that men and women could go out at night, could bar hop, could flirt and dance and drink, could make out in the booth at the corner, could close the place down, could laugh and smoke and hear just the funniest story from this one girl while waiting online for the bathroom. This was all new. The idea that a low-born man like Al Davis could meet a high-born young woman like Eugenia Kelly at all, never mind woo her, simply because he really knew how to wear a suit, because he had moves. That was new. But a sleepless mother was not. Helen Kelly's 19-year-old daughter was out all night, every night. The girl would sleep all day. She'd show up to family functions, to society events, hungover. She had been a good girl, sweet, obedient. And now all of a sudden, who was she? And when her mother would confront her, when her mother, red-faced and tear-streaked, would remind her of their family standing, of the importance of decorum, of womanly virtue, Eugenia would say she was 19. She wasn't a little girl anymore, Mother. Things were different now. The world was changing, everything was new and thrilling, and it wasn't her fault her mother's life was so boring and sheltered and unfun. And anyway, she didn't know Al. She couldn't judge him. And Eugenia Kelly would put on her lipstick, put on some scandalously short dress that crept above her ankles, and her mother would cry, would shout down from the top of the stairs as her daughter stepped through the door of their brownstone and into the night. There was nothing she could do about it. On one of these nights, Eugenia was at a restaurant in Penn Station, a place that had always been open all hours for travelers and graveyard shifters, but was all of a sudden inundated with new patrons. These new people out reinventing the nighttime. So picture one of them throwing her head back, laughing, her wavy hair pinned up beneath some fabulous hat, smoke curling up from the end of a dwindling cigarette at the end of a silver holder held between slender fingers. And picture her surprise when two men in suits approach the table and arrest her, and explain that there was indeed something her mother could do about it. A woman like Helen Kelly, a woman of means, whose deceased husband had been a respected banker, whose grandfather had parlayed a job as a purchaser for the federal government during the Civil War into a fortune. A woman like that would have no problem getting a judge to issue an arrest warrant, especially when her lawyer laid out the dangers. Some of them were self-evident. A 19-year-old girl, out after midnight, dancing, slam dunk case right there. But add new information that had come to light about this Al Davis. He was a married man. A married man who had eschewed gainful employment in order to escort an impressionable young woman into the city's dark corners. A man who'd been seen wearing fine jewelry, expensive ties, all purchased by that same young woman. A young woman, he might add, who was set on her 21st birthday to inherit $1 million. The story hit the papers. All the papers. And by the morning of May 22nd, 1915, when Eugenia Kelly and her lawyer arrived at the courthouse in Manhattan's Upper East Side, the sound of her heels clacking up its marble steps was lost amidst the shouting, the clicking cameras, the barking reporters, the entreaties from fans reaching out with pens and autograph books and grasping hands, the yawping cops keeping them all at bay. But we can pull in close and see her there as she ascends the stairs. The green wool suit, the red necktie and the white silk shirt with the loose, rolling collar. Her hair up beneath one of those fabulous hats. This one tri-cornered and brimless and black, and stuck with a yellow rose. See her smile. See her unbowed by the shouts and the hands, and the fact that she was about to face her own mother in court. And see Helen Kelly on the witness stand, in a black dress, severe and high-necked, some old-world white lace just beneath her chin, looking like she might as well be 1,000,000 years old. As she spoke of her daughter, so sweet, so good, so recently, and how her little girl seemed to disappear overnight, only to be replaced by this wanton wildling. Mrs. Kelly played her hand well, for while not every parent had a child who seemed about to blow her trust fund on an untrustworthy scoundrel, every parent had a child. And in a city frightened by tales of tango pirates, scandalized by stories of inconceivable midnights, someone had to take a stand. Someone had to think of the children. These kids with their dancing, with their high-fives, with their rap music, with their selfie sticks. There was only one solution. Eugenia Kelly had to be locked up. She had to be physically separated from this lifestyle before she became depraved or worse. Then Eugenia took the stand. Her mother's lawyer said she was too nice a girl to be hauled into the court this way, to have her name daily blemished by this notoriety. And besides, she was breaking her poor mother's heart. He offered her an out. Say you're done with that man. Say you're done with that crowd. Say you'll come home, and we can all go home. Eugenia was having none of it. She would not go home to her mother. She would not break ties with Al Davis. She would not apologize when she had nothing on earth to apologize for. And besides, she was 19. She was an adult, and there was no law that could lock her up. There was only one way this could end. But it turned out she was wrong. Not about the law, the case was a joke, but there was a twist still to come. On the third day of the trial, Eugenia Kelly said she had spoken with her mother, and she had changed her mind. She didn't exactly say what had changed it, but the papers wrote of a lengthy negotiation between mother and daughter, their respective lawyers, and several Catholic priests. Money was certainly discussed. And so Eugenia told her mother that she would turn her back on her former life, cut ties to the tango pirate, and in turn her mother agreed to drop the charges. She stood up and told the courtroom, "I realize now that I was dazzled by the glamour of the white lights and the music and the dancing of Broadway." And though the case was over, it was certainly not closed. Because the judge had a thing or two to tell Eugenia about propriety, about morality, about the duty of good girls from fine families. "I can remember," he intoned, "as a young man that your grandfather stood so high in this community that when men passed him in the streets, they lifted their hats out of respect to him. Your father was a high type of man and one of the city's best citizens. I'm afraid you have acted a little foolishly. The best friend you have is your mother. Sometimes we may disagree as to what a mother says, but when we think it over..." We can't know precisely what she was thinking as she stood there in the courtroom and took it for a long time, and how it felt to have her life become an object lesson for fearful parents, and how it felt to realize that hers was the name put on a new way of life, on a new type of girl, or how it felt to be publicly shamed by the state when she herself felt no shame. We can't know how it felt to be that girl, but we know that after the trial, she went west, on a train with her mother, putting miles between her and her old life. Her mother thought it would be a nice change, and we can picture her there in their private car, prairie rolling past. Her mother sitting there with a satisfied smile as she sipped tea, stitched her sampler, read a magazine. We can picture Eugenia staring out at distant hills turned golden by the late afternoon light. We can wonder where she was while she was there on that train. Cheek pressed against the warm window. Which cafe? Which dance floor? We could wonder what she remembered. Which tango? Which drink? Which joke that lit up the eyes of which fabulous friend? What did she remember of Al? Of his smile? Of his smell? Of the way he moved? Of his lips? Of the feel of his hand on her back as he led her across the floor? Or of his hand in her hand as he led her to the bed? We can picture her mother, too, a month or so later, as they made their way back east, moving from fine resort to fine resort. Picture her looking out at the vast front porch of the Grand Hotel, a white Queen Anne palace overlooking Lake Huron from a green bluff on Mackinac Island. Picture her smiling to herself as she watched Eugenia strolling the manicured lawn, with its croquet courts and topiary animals. The girl was better now. It had taken some time, but she was back to herself, her little girl.